Doege, cousin, let's go bowling.
Guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am your host, Damon Fairall. I am, of course, joined by the great, the only Kevin Thomas, and we are here in downtown Phoenix. I don't know, Kevin, is it not as sunny outside today, or is it just because the blinds are closed here? Because it's looking a little bit more overcast out there.
I hope it's an overcast out there.
I think I'm being completely fooled by these blinds here.
It was pretty sunny when I left my place this morning.
I'm sure it's pretty damn hot outside right now. But we are in the lovely PHNX HQ2, where we have great air conditioning here. Yeah. Kevin, how are we living? How is your Thursday going, my good sir?
Going great. I get water at my new place tomorrow, so I'm not going to be a stinky boy anymore.
Kevin's moving. I don't know if...
Moved. Past tense now.
I don't know if anyone heard that.
We're done. It's over. But I have not had water in my place for a while now, and I am very thankful to have water again. Returning to my humble abode tomorrow. People got to walk miles for their drinking water every day. I'm just lucky that it gets to get, piped right into my home every day. So... things could be worse. No complaints on a Thursday afternoon here in Arizona. I will complain for a second, though, and say we are far too many hours away from Arizona men's basketball. I did the math yesterday afternoon. It was like 1,880 hours until Arizona men's basketball.
You can't do the hours. Hours, you're begging to feel bad about.
I'm counting down the hours.
What day is it? Do you know the day?
Off the top of my head anymore, no, I don't. But the red and blue game is in early October. I don't know when it is, but... I did look it up yesterday myself, and it was 1,880 hours. We are counting down the hours until then. Football is encroaching upon us a lot closer, however. We are mere, weeks pretty much away from them really turning up the pace on practice and turning up the pace on preparation for this upcoming Big 12 football season. And today...
November 3rd against Florida here, Kevin. I have an answer for you. That is 109 days from today.
Gross. See, I wasn't even going that far. I went to the red and blue game because I know that's like it's not the true kickoff, but it's the start of the season.
Yeah, but that Florida game is the fact that we get it so early in the season is like, that feels like we're going straight into like legitimate play from game one. I know we probably said similar things last off season around this time, and the Wildcats had a horrific non-conference, but I do not expect that to continue into this next season. I think there was a lot of things that went against that team in that lead up, but let me condense it down for you a little bit less, brother. Walk with me here for a second.
I would love to.
That's about 3.5 months.
Okay. We're about a quarter of the year away. That ain't bad. And the year is flying by. The year is flying by.
Come on now.
I'm with it, Damon. Only a matter of time until we get to see Koa Pete, Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, and company take the floor as Arizona Wildcats for the 2025-26 season. But before we get there, we're going to play some football. Well, not you and I. You and I are going to watch some football. But the Arizona Wildcats that play football for the program will be out there doing their thing on the gridiron. And we're quickly approaching that. And today, Damon and I want to break down the top 3 reasons as to why Arizona is going to make or miss a bowl game in 2025. And before we get into that, though, I did want to break down some predictions because ESPN is doing the ESPN thing, getting out ahead of things way too early sometimes and making their predictions on and predicting things is hard. Some may say it's impossible to predict the future. You know what I mean?
It's impossible to be completely informed, I guess, on every single subject. But when you do something all-encompassing like this, you should at least do your damn best, right?
1,000%. And, I was, checking out AZ Desert Swarm this morning. Shout out to them. They do great work over there as well. And they were talking about the SP Plus predictions from Bill Connolly's article in ESPN recently. And I wanted to go through some of these with you all today. Pretty much the article kind of outlines for all the Big 12 teams, their potential placement in the conference coming up, their potential to win a bowl game, their potential to win the conference, their average on the simulations for the season, on average, how many games they're going to win in conference in the bowl. So let's go ahead and look at these. These are the 2025 predictions for the teams in the Big 12 conference. So you see they have their SP plus rating there in the second far most left column. And for our audio listeners, quite frankly, you're going to have to hop over to video for this one because these are a lot of things on the screen that I'm not quite equipped to explain in an audio-friendly way. But you have your offensive predictive rating there and your defensive predictive rating there and your special team as well. Your average victories for this season and your strength of schedule rank. So you see Arizona down there, third from the bottom in SP plus rating in the Big 12, putting them 60th in the country. Now you also have them ranked 16th best special teams, it does seem there, which, I mean, hey, we'll take the W's where we can get them. I think the important part here, though, is that they're predicting an average win rate or an average win total for the 2025 season for the Arizona Wildcats at 5.4, just on the border of that over-under for 6 games with a strength of schedule of 56. So those are the 2025 predictions from a more macro standpoint. Before we get into the micro stuff, Damon, did anything about this stand out to you in particular?
Yeah, honestly, the continuity table, Kevin, I don't know if you saw that right above, has Arizona at 15th in the country in terms of continuity. In 8 of the top 22 teams in the country apparently are in continuity, are in the Big 12. So it's not as if it's a situation where Arizona is the only team that's returning this kind of production in the Big 12. You have ASU at number 2, unfortunately. Texas Tech at number 6, Baylor 9, Kansas State 14, Arizona 15, Utah 17, Houston 20, and Cincinnati 22. So there's something to be said about continuity these days, I think, in college football with how much ins and outs that there are from an influx and transfer standpoint. There's so many moving parts each year, and being able to stick a team together largely is vastly important. And I think that as far as we were concerned, Brent Brennan and co did about as good of a job as they could retaining some of the better players on this roster, some of the more, I think, coveted players on this roster. You lose Jacob Manu and Takario Davis, for example, but 2 guys that had extremely disappointing 2024s. Might be just time for a change of scenery for a guy like that. So, I think that the returning production bodes well for this team, to be honest.
I do too, because you and I were talking about how the SP plus predictive, score weighs heavily, the continuity on the defense and offensive side, as you had already outlined. And you and I were kind of having a conversation about, is that even a bad thing that Arizona ranks low on continuity? Because continuing what is, I believe, something that you told me before the show today is like, you're right. If you're having continuity from last year's Arizona team to this year's Arizona team, sure, you'd love to have a T-Mac come back and be a part of that continuity. Sure, you'd love to have a Jonas Avainea come back and be a part of that continuity, but you don't. And so the remaining pieces that you could have kept, you kept the ones that really impacted winning. And from everything we're hearing from the locker room guys and from the staff, it seems like the guys you let go weren't really contributing to winning off the field. I think the continuity rating, while low on this ESPN article, quantitative rating, I think it actually is a boost to Arizona next year that you don't have as high of a continuity, and it is a bit of a fresh start, and you do have the opportunity to see what you really have with a guy like Brent Brennan now that he's paired himself up with a guy like Seth Doege, and he's promoted Denny Gonzalez, and he's brought in Joe Salavea. So I really feel positive about the low continuity rating. I feel like, though, ordinarily, I would not feel this way, but it is a unique context that Arizona football is in entering 2025.
Yeah. And it says that, to go further in the article, it says that Arizona, among a few other teams, Baylor, Kansas State, and Utah, have a lot of experience from an upperclassman standpoint. Lots of juniors and seniors on the team, which could also bode well for attempting to win games and also just establishing a good culture, I think. Sometimes it seems like this locker room needed a big switch up, and bringing in guys who have been in multiple locker rooms, been on winning teams, I think could go a long way into making that happen for Arizona in 2025.
Yeah, and I do want to bring to attention Glenn's comment here that says win difference between the top team and the bottom half isn't even that much. Is everyone going to beat each other up this year? And you and I have been talking about it, previewing the Big 12 season, that the parity in this conference is real. Mm-hmm. At least it feels real preseason. It feels like all these teams, pretty much outside of the top echelon of the conference, can beat anybody on any given Saturday. Yeah. And that is a cliche. But in the Big 12 Conference this season, it feels real. And that's why I have such high faith in Arizona football this year to make a bowl game, is because it's anybody's conference to take in that middle section. It's anybody's conference to really take hold of that, for lack of a better phrase, middle class, right? You know, you have your, I hate to say it, but you have your ASUs at the top of the conference. Really, this is their year to come in and maybe show that they're what they think that they are. Maybe they're not. Who knows? But I think everybody that is in that like 3 to 16 in the 3 to 13, I'll say, in the Big 12 Conference can really compete with one another, and it's going to be a scrap to see how that middle class kind of sorts itself out.
Yeah.
Arizona has every right, in my opinion, to stake a claim in the middle of the Big 12 Conference and be competitive and make a bowl game. But yeah, I think that these predictions also outline that as well. We were talking about continuity, though, Damon, and before we get any further into this conversation, you and I have been talking to and about Genesis Smith, about him being underrated. And sure, he doesn't really care, but you can tell from his answers that he feels underrated.
Well, and you could tell that his teammates are in his ear about it too, because they all care.
Yes, he might not outwardly say, like, I'm mad, I'm upset about this, but he surely feels slighted. He surely feels like his talents that he showcased aren't being seen like they should have been seen already. And I think that's honestly a good place for Genesis Smith to be in. We talked about Noah Fifita being an underdog and how comfortable he is. He said that on our show when we were at Big 12 Media Day. I think Genesis Smith is probably cut from that same cloth. He's probably more comfortable chasing than being chased, right? And I think him not even getting a mention. And again, this is not me coming at Bill Connolly. This article is great work. It's very comprehensive stuff for every team. So make sure to go check it out, right? But to not even mention Genesis Smith when you're talking about the impactful returning defensive players for Arizona next year is a huge blind spot, in my opinion. And he's not the only one. Like, Bill Connolly is not the only one that is not aware of what Genesis Smith can do on a football field. But I did want to talk about just how it's not just EA. It's criminally underrated, like from actual football analysts as well, that Genesis Smith just has not been getting the eyes on him. But it's going to happen this year. At least I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it on this show that I think Genesis Smith is an NFL football player. So I also would be surprised if he doesn't wake people up a little bit. But also, I think that could be the nature of playing like a team that like Arizona, where I really feel that most people are going to know who Noah Fifita is. They're going to know who, the coach is. They might know who Seth Doege is depending on the performance of the team, because he might rise to a kind of a level of stardom, I think. But outside of that, maybe Ishmael Mahdi, because he was successful in the past at Texas State. So if you're a real big college football sicko or an ASU fan that watched him play against them or something like that, you might know who he is. But I really feel that like there's like 2 names on this team that people like legitimately know, right? And that's why Genesis Smith, I think he gets hurt by that a little bit, but he's performed every time that he gets playing time. And he was, one of the only few staples of the team last year. And I think that he's going to wake some people up for sure.
Yeah, no, I think he will wake people up as well.
I believe biblical, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn asked if he was named after the Sega Genesis.
You'll remember we also had Ephesians Prize Sock on the team as well. So we had an Ephesians and a Genesis on the team. Pretty special stuff.
Maybe that's
why that team had a little bit of magic behind them.
Yeah, maybe they were guided, Illuminato, as Charles Oliveira would say. But yeah, no, I do think that Genesis Smith is going to prove some people wrong, and maybe not even prove people wrong, because they're not even talking him down. They're just not talking about him at all. And so I think he's going to make a lot of people aware of what he can do on a football field. And I think he's going to continue to be one of Arizona's most consistent defensive impact players in that defensive back room. We've talked about how the influx of skill in that DB room, right? The influx of experience in that DB room. You bring in a Javion Cole, who's played at a couple places and played at a place like Texas, right? And then you still look at Genesis Smith as the guy that is, along with Traden Stukes, kind of leading that room in a way. And so for him not to even get a mention in this article, I was truly surprised. And you were doing D-back, so I couldn't fully freak out about it as much as I wanted to. But after the show, I was like, Damon, what the hell is this? I'm upset about it. Get my guy Genesis in this damn article.
Absolutely. And it's a travesty that he has been as underrated and I think under the radar as he has been going into this season. But hopefully some things change towards the end of the year and he gets his rightful flowers. I think that, Kevin, that's a good place to kind of get into here. Our top 3 reasons that they will make a bowl game, or do you want to start with the won't?
I think we should start with the will and then go into the why it might not happen. But before we get into that real quick, I did have one more screenshot from this ESPN article that I wanted to bring to people's attention. This was more simply just the conference predictor. So this was just the conference wins predictor, conference title percent chance, chance to have 11% or 11 plus wins and 6 plus wins. As you can see, Arizona kind of in the middle of this list here. They're predicting 3.5 conference wins. So not the great performance in the conference by any means, with just a 2.9% chance to win the whole Big 12, a 0.0% chance to win 11 games. It's actually statistically impossible for Arizona to do that this year, according to these predictive ratings. And then I think this is also the most important thing here. A 46.9% chance to win 6 plus games and earn yourself a chance to be and win a bowl game. Pretty much a 50-50 shot, Damon, if you look at those statistics there. Leading into our conversation of what will or won't cause them to make a bowl game this year, when you and I were going over this, it really is kind of like a coin flip in a way. Like when you're predicting it, it feels like either some things go well, which we're about to get into, or some things go wrong. It doesn't really feel like, maybe you feel differently, like you're leaning like, oh, I'm certain that these 3 things on this will list are going to happen, or, oh, I'm certain that the 3 things on the won't list won't happen. It really feels like Arizona football is kind of in a limbo stage until we get through those first couple games, and then they play Kansas State.
Yeah, it's like last year, and I know it didn't work out the way that you wanted to, but we would have went into the year saying, like, I'm certain Noah Fifita and T-Mac's connection is going to be elite. Like, elite enough to raise the floor of the team higher than what it ended up being, to be honest with you. We would have been dead wrong, but that would have been something that we would have been very confident in saying, I believe. This one, I'm with you. It's very ambiguous this season and what it could hold. I think because of how open the Big 12 is and how seemingly much parity there is in the conference, that you could really talk yourself into a really good season or a really bad season, and it's really, both of them are not too far out of the question in terms of what reality might be. But yeah, I mean, I definitely am not of the opinion that all of this stuff is going to happen. It's more of my qualifiers of what I think needs to happen if they do make a bowl game. Like what the biggest reasons for a potential bowl game run would entail.
Yeah, so this is Damon's top 3 reasons why Arizona will make. I mean, you were already kind of leading into it, right? And so I feel like let's go ahead and start with the Dogs' top 3 reasons why Arizona will make a bowl game.
Top 3 reasons they will make a bowl game. Number 1, Seth Doege is him. It's simple. I wish you put a period at the end of it, Kevin.
I should have, damn it.
Because that's what I really meant when I said it. But I just think that, you see him right there on the right. Seth Doege has a lot of confidence. He has a clear, I think, vision for what he wants his offense to look like, unlike what we saw all of last season, where it felt so all over the place, no identity, 0 run game, 0 game plan outside of, hey, we have the best receiver in college football, find him down there somewhere. And I think that completely changes with these air raid principles that Seth Doege is going to bring to the table, that he learned from Mike Leach, that he played under, and that he really has implemented in his previous stops, whether that be USC, Purdue, Marshall, where he had to run more of a run first kind of fast paced system, and it worked out in lieu of in the way of a conference title. So I just think that if Seth Doege is who I think what his ceiling could be, that is the biggest reason that Arizona goes from being unwatchable last season to being a competitive team in the Big 12 this season.
I mean, I want to talk more about the Seth Doege thing, and I'll get into that when I get to my list. But what you said that I really want to nail down on is the watchability factor.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've talked about the expectations for this team. You and I just outlined in the ESPN predictions about how they literally statistically it's not possible for them to win 11 games and go on this crazy run. I mean, I guess we've seen crazier things happen, right? But I think like the expectations for this team are, can we at least have something that every Saturday we're excited to sit down and watch for a couple hours? Because I know, I'm assuming you felt the exact same. There were times last season where I love this program, I love this school, I love my job. We're lucky to do all of those, and we're lucky to say that we're Arizona Wildcats. However, Watching the Dino Babers offense, I legitimately at times, if it was not my job, would have shut it off and turned on any other game instead of watching the Arizona football Wildcats last year. But this year under Seth Doege, it feels like that is an impossibility. It feels like regardless of the win or loss outcome, you're going to be entertained by Arizona's offense this season. And I hope that we're right in feeling that way.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go as far as you will there, saying like it feels like it's like definitely going to happen. I think that I think it's still kind of up in the air, but I do think that the ceiling is extremely high, and I'm hopeful. I'm positive. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that it's going to end up working out. But yeah, I mean, I think the Seth Doege side of things for me is for sure, I think, the most important in regards to whether or not Arizona will make a bowl game. Moving on, I thought that this was kind of a fun one. I cooked this one up, Kevin, in my brain, and was
let him
to
cook.
Discuss it with you. I think this pass defense needs to be in the top five in the Big 12 next year. And there's a multitude of reasons and a bunch of layers as to why. I think number one, last season, one of the reasons that the defense got so derailed was the amount of injuries on that back end, right? You had obviously, probably your main coverage linebacker, get hurt in Jacob Manu. You had Dalton Johnson have to move to linebacker, so get out of his safety position that he's most comfortable in. You had Genesis Smith play well and play all season, but outside of that, Traden Stukes had a big injury. Gunnar Maldonado missed time, and Takario Davis was 1 foot out the door the entire season. So I think that you go into this next season, you bring back a lot of that experience in that room. You have Traden Stukes, you have Dalton Johnson, you have Genesis Smith. You need that unit to be the best unit on your defense to be competitive. And I think that to be the best unit on the defense and to make this defense competitive, I think it needs to be like in the top 5 of the Big 12. I don't know what to expect from the run defense. I don't know what to expect at all from this defensive line. But I do think that Joe Salvea is a good enough floor raiser as a coach where maybe the run defense won't be awful no matter what. Like it could be bad, but maybe not just like not backbreaking. And even if it's bad, but not backbreaking, but the defensive backs are good enough to sustain a top 5 pass defense in this conference, I think that that's where you could potentially be looking at some success for Arizona football.
I mean, I love that you cooked this up, Damon, and I think that you're on the right track to say that if Arizona's run defense can be serviceable, right? If Arizona's run defense can be average at best or average at whatever it needs to be, right? I don't know what the right phrase there is, but if it can at minimum be average, I think, and then you compare that with a very skilled DB room that has the opportunity to shut down a game on paper, I think that you do have a defense that can compete in the Big 12 conference. And if you have a top 5 passing defense in the conference, if you're Arizona, I think the rest of the defense will follow through as the rest of the season goes on. Because you're right, you do have a lot of new faces on the defensive line. You have a lot of new pieces in general operating that room. So it's going to take a couple weeks probably for that defensive line to really look cohesive, to really look like a unit, I'll say. But with the DBs, you do have new faces, but you also have very important returning leaders in that room. So you should expect the DB room day one to be a lot better than some of the other units on that defensive side, and you need them to carry you through the season. So yeah, a top 5 defensive back room in the conference would be chef's kiss, Damon.
Yeah, pass defense technically is what I put
You're
down.
Right, you're right.
I think in other words, I mean, I think that they have to be top 5 unit for sure. I think that, from just a pass defense in general standpoint, I worry a little bit about the pass rush, but I do think like Trey Smith's a pretty good football player. And you have some other pieces that you added as well that people seem to be fairly high on. And after the spring football period, I remember Chancellor Owens was making some noise. I remember people like that. But moving on to my third,
real quick on the pass defense topic, Glenn brings up a great point here. You need a good passing defense in a conference with as elite of quarterbacks as the Big 12 has. This is not like a rush heavy conference where if you don't have a run defense, you're probably going to get gashed every Saturday. This is a conference where if you can't defend the quarterbacks, if you can't defend the receivers that the Big 12 offer, you're not going to you're not going to be able to compete at the highest level in the Big 12. So
I think that is a good point, and even I think that there's an element to that even says like teams are going to pass on you no matter what with the QBs in this conference, with the offenses in this conference. You don't even necessarily need them to be like in the top of the country. in terms of past defenses, but being towards the top 5 of the Big 12 itself, I think would go an extremely long way. Like, I'm not sure that I think a lot of those defenses come from the Big 10, just the way that they play their style of football. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more ground and pound. You have Iowas that play in like over under 17.5 point games in that conference. So you're bound to have really good defenses, I think, when that happens. But in this particular league, I think that would go an extremely long way. It puts you in the upper third of the conference. I don't think that that's too unreasonable of an expectation, but you never know. Moving on to my third one here, Kevin. I think you need to see this offensive line find some early chemistry here, because you have so many new faces. You bring in 6 new additions to the offensive line, and as we go through this list here, it is well, I don't want to start off with that one. Ty Buchanan, Kayana DeCambra, Jordan Brown, Tristan Bounds, Isaac Perez, and then Keona Pete, because I was reading from bottom up instead of top up, and I didn't want to.
Keona Pete.
I didn't want to make it seem like to Glenn, who's watching here, that I was saying that Keona Pete is going to be a big contributor on this offensive line, but I do think that there's that's a lot of new faces. You have Alex Deuce, who figures to be a fixture from the last team on this offensive line. Rhino, when he comes back this season, I think he'll probably get a good amount of playing time. But mostly you're gonna have to ride with the dogs that you brought in in the transfer portal, right? And that probably means Ty Buchanan and Tristan Bounds are your tackles. Isaac Perez is your center. Kayana DeCambra is one of your guards, and your other guard is Alex Deuce. And that's 4 new faces and one guy that we feel pretty comfortable with. But he is a guard. That's one of the lesser impactful positions, I would say, on your offensive line. You kind of need those guys, those Ty Buchanans, those Tristan Bounds, those Kayana DeCambras to be very good football players, or maybe not even very good, but just serviceable, not debilitating. Because last season's offensive line was frankly pretty debilitating.
Yeah, no, last season's offensive line had Noah Fifita seeing ghosts. Like, he was genuinely, I'm not going to use the word scared, but he was genuinely tentative in the pocket.
For the first time in his entire football career, the guy, like, he'll stand in there, he'll take a hit because he knows Jordan Morgan, Jonas Savaiinaea, Josh Baker are protecting him. But then the next season, you could see he's antsy in the pocket. He's trying to get the ball out a little bit quicker, too fast. Like, it affected him. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I think you clarified my point there, right? It affected him and made him cautious in the pocket. And I think back to that Alamo Bowl throw that he made, falling back in the pocket, kind of a, F it, T-Mac is down there somewhere kind of a throw. But he got cracked on the end of that throw.
Yeah.
And you were never seeing that last year out of Noah Fifita. And that's not a lack of desire to make that play out of Noah Fifita. It's not a lack of ability. It's a lack of protection. He didn't have the time to say, okay, I can make this throw before I get cracked. And now we can start the show because Erica Day is here in the chat. So, yeah, no, I think that the offensive line effectiveness is going to really drive this team's offensive success, whether or not Noah Fifita is able to have a, Alamo Bowl type of season, or whether he has a Dino Babers type of season, right? So, yeah, I think that's a very good one. And before we get into my top 3 reasons as to why Arizona can make a bowl game, we're going to hit a break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So drink your water. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Drop a like.
And drop a like, too, while you're at it. And while we're at, telling you what to do, head over to Pure Edibles. And, like we've said it countless times talking about Pure Edibles, they're available in over 130 dispensaries statewide. And if there are so many dispensaries in this state, and if you're not going to one that has Pure Edibles available, go find a new one, because you got 130 options to choose from when you're looking for the pure gummies that are not covered in sugar like all their other competitors. But if you're not a gummy guy, if you're more of a hard candy lover, they got those too. But they also have the chews, which are kind of like caramel vibes, and their kicks, which are kind of like Starburst as well. So check out Pure Edibles, because their effects are clearly, purely listed on the tin, so you know exactly what kind of high you are getting yourself into. It was created in Flagstaff, Arizona at Noble Herb Dispensary, the home of Pure Edibles, Noble Herb Dispensary. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles products at the over 130 dispensaries that offer them. And if you're not going to a dispensary that offers them, find a new one.
Well, you guys know that if you want your brand to stand out in the crowd, that it's always going to be Branded Bills that you're going to go to. You see, I have a beautiful Branded Bills custom hat on right here. The Arizona Diamondbacks customized these this season and gave them out to special season ticket holders. Not to say that I'm special, no big deal. But it is a beautiful hat, and you could tell that there's a reason that Brandon Bills makes the most comfortable and the most stylish hats in the business. Whether it's a snapback, trucker, fitted beanie, or t-shirt, Brandon Bills has you covered with performance and style. With 40 partnerships with universities, including our sweet beloved Wildcats. Check out their campus collection. They have special edition campus collection on campus as well that Kevin and I talk about all the time, with some unbelievable hats there. A beautiful territorial cup hat that I still need to find a way to get my hands on here, Kevin. But they're a local company started out of Mesa, Arizona. They love their Wildcats, and you should love them too. Use our promo code BBPHNX. You'll get 15% off your first order. Head to BrandonBills.com and use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order.
So let's go ahead and get straight into my top three reasons as to why Arizona will make a bowl game in 2025. Number one on my list, Seth Doege's offense transforms Noah Fifita and the wide receivers. And the reason I said this explicitly as Fifita and the wide receivers is because my number three is about Ishmael Mahdi, which I'll get to in a second. But I think that if Seth Doege is able to return Noah Fifita to his Alamo Bowl form, help the wide receivers maybe play above their belt or maybe raise their level to the level of the Big 12, I think you could see a fast, effective, and if you ask Rhino Tapatotai, violent offense from Arizona this upcoming season. And I think Seth Doege is going to lead that charge. So that is my number one reason as to why Arizona could make a bowl game this year, is Seth Doege's potential transformation of Noah Fifita back into one of the top quarterbacks in the country, despite his undersized stature. Number two is going to be defensive depth and strength and conditioning help prevent injuries from playing a role this upcoming season. We've talked a lot about how last year's lack of strength and conditioning and at times just straight up unlucky injuries really hindered Arizona's ability to gain continuity and consistency on the defensive end, right? Because when you have a guy like Jacob Manu simply going up to celebrate, making a tackle and he tries to kick the ball and tears a ligament, and that's just the kind of season you're having. But you also need to have someone that can step up into his role and help alleviate that loss, from your lineup, right? And so I think the added transfers on the defensive side, the added depth in the DB room in general, specifically I'm talking about, in combination with the increased strength and conditioning that the players and coaches talked to us about at Big 12 Media Day, I think will prevent injuries from playing as big of a role in 2025 as they played in 2024. Obviously, it's football. You're always going to have injuries. Number three, and I think this is one that I'm really excited to talk with you about, Damon, Ishmael Mahdi levels up in the Big 12. If Ishmael Mahdi comes in and, like EA Sports predicts, is one of the best running backs in the conference, I think it completely changes the ceiling of this Arizona offense, right? Because if Ishmael Mahdi comes in and he's average in the conference or maybe even slightly below average in the conference, yes, Arizona has a bit of a depth there as well. Kedrick Reesino can come in and help pick up some carries as well. But I feel like if Ishmael Mahdi is one of the top 5 running backs in the conference, bar none, like for certain, I think Arizona's offense, and Noah Fifita in particular, is going to find a lot more success in 2025. So those are my top 3 reasons why Arizona can make a bowl game in 2023. Damon, or 2025. Damon, what do you think?
I love the Ishmael Mahdi one because I think that what it goes to show is just the lack of run game that Arizona had last season, right? And we talk about Quali Conley a lot, and I feel like I don't want to be disrespectful to the guy, but to me he's like the definition of a jack. Like, he was an average running back. I don't think that he really was giving you much more than that. He averaged 5 yards a carry. I guess he had 8 touchdowns last year, 745 yards. I mean, he was kind of the second guy at San Jose State the year before, so he wasn't really even their primary back. Were you muted for that, by the way?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I definitely was. If I'm not talking, I'm muted over here, folks. That's just the way it is. I was dying over here.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Pardon me.
But you missed Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or Bill, as the team calls him, a lot last season. He was supposed to be the secondary playmaker on the entire team after T-Mac. He was probably the special difference maker that you really needed and would have been the difference between, I think, at least that Texas Tech game, where you win that game, no doubt, with him, and then you're one win away from a bowl game. You start off 4-1. maybe you do make a bowl game that season, winning it just another game, like, because it really fell off the rails. The season got derailed at a certain point. You get blown out by TCU, who wasn't all that great. You get blown out by UCF, who sucked. Like, you're not. It wasn't. The season just completely felt like took the wheels off of the wagon, right? And so I think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt could have changed things for last season, and now you bring in a running back who has a little bit of cachet, has a little bit of presence in college football, and was coveted by teams. Can he take that step up in competition from Texas State to Arizona and hit the ground running? I think you're for sure on the money there. Like, I think that goes a long way in towards of helping Noah Fifita, helping this offense, and just making sure that Seth Doege can play, a very balanced type of system instead of having to completely go 5 wide, empty spread, shoot the ball all over the place, run no huddle. Like, if they can run the ball effectively, that opens up so many different things for this offense and just makes Noah's life so much easier. So I think that, that running aspect is so important. But overall, like, the health standpoint, what you put there, I kind of wanted to incorporate that into mine. That's why I did the top 5 passing defense thing, because I think that the health of the DBs is in particular so consequential for this team, because they've had injury issues in the past, right? I think that the injury issues in general on the entire defensive line is going to go or defensive unit is going to go a long way.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, Damon, I hate the fact that ASU had such a good year last year that when you're talking about success in the conference, it's kind of unavoidable to not reference. You're going to make
Glenn too happy here, man.
It's not my fault, though. If they come out and crap the bed this year, I would love nothing more than to never have to compare the two schools' football for at least a while. You know what I mean? But you saw the effects that Cam Scadaboo had last year on that offense. Now, he obviously had an extraordinary season. I'm not saying that Ishmael Mahdi needs to come in and have that kind of year.
Yeah.
But I think, we both think Sam Levitt's a good quarterback, right? We both think he's talented. I'm not trying to say he's not. He wouldn't be anything without Cam Scadaboo. What I am trying to say, though, is that last year you saw the effects on a quarterback that had an elite running back behind him to help alleviate the pressure on him offensively, right? And I think when you're talking about a guy like Noah Fifita and how to facilitate success for him, when you talk to Fifita, when you talk to Doege, it usually starts with that offensive line, right? Yeah. It usually starts with, and that's step one, right? But I think if you peel back that onion one more time, you get right to that running back room. Because if they're able to make the defense think about the run a little bit more, especially with a quarterback like Noah Fifita, who does do pretty well in that play action kind of vibe, in my opinion, I think that really bodes well for the entire offense as a whole. So if Ishmael Mahdi can come in and even be a slightly above average running back in the Big 12 conference, I think it raises Arizona's ceiling dramatically. Not even to talk about if he comes in and scales that production from Texas State right into the Big 12, which might be unlikely, but it's not impossible. We've seen it happen in other conferences before.
To your point, I think that you just saw Sam Levitt's confidence grow throughout the season playing next to Cam Scadaboo, and then he had more and more on his plate as the team trusted him more and more to do things, and he looked better and better as the season went on. So, yeah, I mean, I think that doesn't happen without Scat and his unbelievable season that he had last season. So I understand your point. And then now they feel comfortable with that guy because they feel like he has confidence. He's flying high. He feels great going into this next season. If you can kind of regain that confidence for Noah Fifita, and not to say Noah Fifita lacks confidence, because I think it's probably the opposite, right? I think that Noah Fifita has oodles and oodles of confidence. Otherwise, he wouldn't be where he is today, right? Because you hear him talk about being doubted and underrated his entire life, and that's how it's shaped him to get to this place. But I do just think on the field, you saw his confidence wane a little bit last year. You heard when we had Bruce Feldman on the show. The great Bruce Pascoe as well, by the way. That'd be an unreal guest for this program.
Bruce.
Which I'm not sure Bruce Pascoe does any sort of to tape broadcasting type of journalism at all, but he does great work. But Bruce Feldman was on our show, and he talked about Noah Fifita being unflappable when he came in 2023. He came in losing against Stanford. Jaden DeLauro stinking the place up, wins the game, full stop. Jed Fish kind of is like, JDL is going to be back this week. all week, right, leading up to the next game. And Noah Fifita gets his first start against USC on the road. And you could tell Jed Fish was like, if JDL is healthy, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he said. If JDL is healthy, he's our quarterback, and we want him to be healthy this week. Noah goes out there. We lose a triple overtime game to the number one pick in the NFL draft that season. And that was at a time, too, before USC's season was really falling off of a cliff. Like, they had playoff aspirations, I would argue, at that point in the season still. And Noah had an incredible showing in that game. His next game, JDL, it's starting to feel like, oh, maybe Noah should be the guy, right? Next game, Noah Fifita plays against Washington in his first home start. Washington, the eventual runners-up of the entire college football season that year, played a close game versus Michigan as well. And Noah Fifita looks great in that game and probably gives Washington their second, third toughest game of the entire season, maybe fourth. The Oregon game, I believe that one of them was close. But I just think, you saw Noah Fifita just step right in difficult situations, losing in a game, playing USC and Caleb Williams on the road, playing Michael Penix and Rome Odunze and all those guys, at home in his first home game, a team that was unbelievable, top 10, undefeated, right? Like, and you didn't see him have any signs of cracks or of not showing confidence. And last year, you could just tell he didn't believe in whatever was going on, Kevin. And I think that's a long way of just saying, like, you could tell that he didn't believe in the people upstairs that were telling him what he was supposed to be doing. Because otherwise, I think he did believe in Jed Fish and his offensive capabilities. And when Jed Fish says, hey, you're going to take a 5-step drop, you're going to, take one shuffle forward and you're going to let it fly 30 yards and T-Mac's going to be standing there. Jacob Cowing's going to be wide open, blah, blah, blah. I think Noah believes in that and he thinks he can fit it into all those windows. But you could tell last year that Noah just had no confidence in anybody else except for T-Mac on that entire team.
I think that was very well put. And I also think that when we're talking about his confidence level, our chat's talking about it as well. And I think, like, I've never doubted that Noah Fifita, had confidence. And you said the same thing. I do think his confidence waned a little bit in specifically the plan. I think his confidence in the plan waned. I don't think his confidence in himself or his skills ever wavered. But I do think what Noah Fifita lost last year that I would love to maybe see, and this is a total, like, gas bag talking point kind of a thing to say. But he lost that invincibility.
That's what we are.
He lost that invincibility, right? And I think, like, when you had that Alamo Bowl season and you outlined, like, the success, the ups, the downs that he did experience, throughout all the ups and downs, though, he kept doing this. He kept getting better, right? Mm-hmm. And it felt like no matter what happens, whether it's a overtime game versus USC, whether it's a Jaden Delora injury, Noah Fifita is going to come out on top. He felt invincible. He felt inevitable in a way, right? At least to us. I think last season...
He was winning. He was just straight up winning. And he stepped in, and the team looked terrible against Mississippi State. I mean, they lost in overtime, but JDL was awful. He threw 4 picks in the first half of that game, completely loses you that game. Like, you didn't have a ton of confidence, I don't think, in that season, and it was supposed to be the season where you took the jump, right? But Noah Fifita was like, no, actually, this team is ready to be competitive right now. And if there was a college football playoff in that season, Arizona would have had, they wouldn't have made it because they were 9-3. That's probably one too many losses, but they would have had like every shout, I think, to have been a caliber team. They finished 11th in the polls, for God's sake. So that's top 12 right there. I mean, they were a really, really good team, and they wouldn't have been if Noah Fifita was under center.
Yeah, and I know this is a bit of this is a bit of a deep cut, but in the bit of the invincibility thing, it reminds me of like Chris Weidman, right? Who came in as like this young stud, and you're just like, oh my God, he bursts onto the scene. He's undefeated. This is incredible. He's going to lead all the way to the title. And then he loses to the Luke Rockhold, and he goes on this crazy, like, up, down, he breaks his leg kind of a thing. And it's just like, that invincibility was forever gone. Like, he had forever been cracked. And like the confidence that you have going into something as like an undefeated kind of a feeling, once that's gone, like, who are you as a competitor? And I think last year we saw Noah Fifita have all the utmost faith in himself as a competitor and as a skilled quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think we need to see that invincibility next year. And I think if they come out rolling to start the year, you're going to see a bounce in Noah Fifita's step. You know what I mean? Not just a pep, but a full-on, like, Klay Thompson bouncing up and down the court kind of a bounce. You know what I mean? So I'm with it. Yeah, I think that if Noah Fifita can get that confidence back, it is huge. And I think that we should maybe go on to the other side of things and maybe tell people why Arizona might not make a bowl game in 2025. And we're going to do that after this quick break on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like, leave a comment in our chat, drink some water. We'll be right back. And I want to talk to you all about our friends over at Circle K. Now, Circle K, it's America's thirst stop. It's the Freedom State's thirst stop.
Well, let me
Circle
stop
K.
you there for a second. Kevin, yesterday we didn't have water in this office. Kevin said, "Hey man, would you mind stopping at a gas station?" Is what Kevin said. A gas station, picking up some water. And I said, "You know what? I'll stop at Circle K and get you some damn water, Kevin." And I did. I made a stop at Circle K, and guess who wasn't thirsty anymore?
Me.
This guy.
I was hydrated. I could have dehydrated, but I was hydrated because of Circle K. And yeah, when they're there when you need them most. Your best friends, your family members, and your favorite gas stations. And Circle K is my favorite gas station because it's always there for me when I need it most. And so are their damn savings. Because if you join the Inner Circle, right now they have current promotions going on where you can save 25 cents off on every gallon of fuel when you buy 3 Coca-Cola products, 20 ounces or more. Cookies, $1 each. I love a cookie. Damon loves a cookie. For just $1?
I'm a chocolate chip man. What can I say?
What can I say? I kind of resemble a chocolate chip cookie in a way. 79-cent Polar Pop, 99-cent Frosters for Inner Circle members only. Only exclusive for the Inner Circle members. So make sure to join the Inner Circle. Get 25 cents off on gas for your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents off on every fill-up after that. And then once you graduate into that inner Circle, you get 5 cents off per gallon every time, no doubt about it. Join the Inner Circle today for free by getting that Circle K app into your phone, downloading it. Terms and conditions do apply, though, at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details.
Kevin, I'm sure they're thrilled about your chocolate chip cookie analogy being a part of their ad read.
I mean, hey, I'm a lovable guy, just like a lovable chocolate chip cookie from Circle K. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you guys about Empire Today. Head on over to EmpireToday.com if you are even considering getting some new flooring, because they have hundreds of different styles, colors, whether it's a carpet, tile, hardwood, you name it, man. Empire Today are the flooring experts. They have so much more. They offer so much more than those big box stores, where this is just one of the things they do on aisle 17. Oh yeah, head down to aisle 17 and see if Jerry's down there and he'll help you with the flooring. No, they're going to show up at your house and they're going to tell you, hey, here are your options. Here's what you're looking for based on what you describe to them. We'll lay out some options. These are the experts in the business. They have their virtual floor designer where they can show you exactly what the types of floors you're interested in are going to look like in that new room. And it's just the absolute best place and only option to get your flooring done. They are the professionals when it comes to getting new flooring. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, guys, with Empire Today, and you can receive a $350 discount when you use our promo code of PHNX. Yes, you heard that right. $350 off with our promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details.
Also, just because I feel like we're in a courtroom, and you know how like once you bring evidence in, it's in there forever, right? Glenn has brought into our chat the Eric Ruby, Kevin Durant thing, and now I feel like it's relevant to the pod. Glenn says, I would have more confidence in Noah Fifita over Kevin Durant. Eric Ruby probably. Did you? I know you saw that. We were talking about it this morning. But, like, I mean, he's an ASU guy. So, caveat, right, with that. But he is a PHNX guy, and that's our brethren. He kind of cooked. He kind of cooked with his tweet.
I don't understand all these people that think that he's getting flamed. I'm like almost at a loss for words. I'm reading my Twitter timeline. I have a few people on my Twitter timeline who are probably not they definitely don't like the Suns, but maybe not the biggest PHNX fans of all time either. And yeah, I mean they're like running victory laps right now on my timeline, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, what am I missing?
Yeah, it feels like Eric was just, pretty fair, pretty even keeled and all that.
Eric literally said, I'm not blaming you. In fact, I think you're the best player on the team, but we needed to switch things up. The team chemistry was clearly horrific. You're not going to punt off of Devin Booker unless you are completely rebuilding, which Matt Ishbia seems unwilling to do. And so I don't really understand what we're talking about.
It's like when your buddy's in a bad relationship and they finally separate and you're like, you know what? That's an unfortunate thing that had, like, it happened, but it had to happen. And I'm just happy you can move on in your new situation now. and that we can all just, be done with this as a whole. As a friend group, we can be done with the drama that, you're bringing to all of us. Like, oh, Matt Ishbia said this, and oh, Kevin Durant said that. I'm like, I don't care. Get out of my room. I'm trying to play the game. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think Eric kind of was pretty fair about like, I'm just happy to have a fresh start. You know what I mean?
Literally. How is that so? Why is that such a bad thing to say after such an awful season? Isn't that kind of what we're saying on this podcast? Because I did want to make that comparison.
Yeah.
We had the equivalent of the Suns season last season with our football program.
Professional transition.
Like you literally were. You had high expectations. And it just came all crashing and burning to the ground. That's going to make anybody feel like they need a fresh start. That's why most of this fan base wanted Brent Brennan gone, frankly.
That's actually that's a good point.
But I think that the Seth Doege hire has injected a little bit of lifeblood where more people, and the way the offseason went, more people are slowly starting to be like, well, maybe I think there's an avenue where it works. Maybe they're not fully bought in, like a few people are, but I think that there are people that are slowly starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the situation that we have at hand. But I do want to say, Glenn, I know you don't mean Eric, because Eric's not a skeleton. He's a ghost, brother. That's a skin color joke. Bazoinga. Yeah. But also, I think just to wrap up that the Ruby KD thing, I saw a lot of people saying like to the effect of like of KD like or Kevin like in response saying like what culture, and it's like what is Suns culture, and it's like, isn't that kind of the point?
No, yeah, it is the point. It really is.
There is none. And KD was the best player on the team. He's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to establish the culture, and there's
zilch.
Wouldn't you say that is almost the entire point of what Eric's saying in the first place?
No, yeah, it is.
That's why it genuinely is blowing my mind, because it's like I feel like it's so surface level right there in front of you. Like that's clearly the entire point of his original post, but I digress. That's a good way to wrap it up.
But honestly, it does kind of segue into what we were saying about like the whole continuity thing with the U of A football program is like continuing what exactly, and we outlined what can happen if they make some changes in that, cultural continuous whatever.
Yeah.
But if they don't make those changes, they might miss a bowl game. And Damon, do you want to go first with your top 3 reasons as to why Arizona might miss a bowl game in 2025?
Let's do it. I'm going to try to do it a little bit faster than I did the last one. Number 1, and to Glenn's point earlier about how important the offensive line is, saying it could be the difference between 2 and 3 wins. I 100% agree. I think that, number 1 reason for me that Arizona could miss a bowl game, you lose so many players that you had a lot of confidence in, frankly, and the O-line still was bad. You had a early second round pick in Jonas Avenaya. You had Josh Baker, who was a 3-year starter at center. Obviously, Jordan Morgan was 2 years ago, but he was a staple of this program for a long time. You lost a lot of really talented offensive linemen. Wendell Moy as well goes to Tennessee, is making like $500K at Tennessee this year. So shout out him. Way to get your bag, son. But and then just kind of in lieu with that, the new additions just frankly not being good enough in this upcoming season. The guys I mentioned, Ty Buchanan, Tristan Bounds, Kayana DeCambra, like you need people to step up and be good right away, or else I think that things could really derail for this offense. Because what does Seth Doege have in his cards, right? If he doesn't have an offensive line that can even give Noah an inkling of space to throw a football, I think that in that case, you're probably going to see a lot more no huddle, a lot more quick passes at the line of scrimmage and trying to get horizontal and get playmakers into space. But that's hopefully not one-dimensionally what this team can do. Hopefully they have a lot more that they're in their abilities, right? Because this offensive line can give Noah a little bit of space. Next one I'm going to go to here is Noah Fifita is more of 2024 Noah Fifita than 2023 Noah Fifita, meaning he looks, a little bit more tentative. He looks flappable, to use Bruce Feldman's terminology. And
good word.
And yeah, it is. And it's just not the same, 2023 Noah Fifita where seemingly everything that the guy was doing was working, right? Every time he'd fit it into a tight window, it felt like it was a completed pass. we were doing replays of those being like, oh my God, look how close to an interception it was. But like he fitted into that window. You know what I mean? Like he was just on the money. And it was, I think in large part a confidence thing. And so I think you need to just basically see him get back to that confidence of 2023 where he's just letting it fly and not really thinking about, like, oh my God, like is this guy going to hit me on this play? Am I going to throw an interception? Because those kind of things were backbreaking for last year's team. If you had a negative play, you knew we were punting. There was a 0% chance that we were not going to punt if he took a sack or something like that. And then my last reason here, the FCS to FBS step up, which I did steal this from you, so I went first and got to act like the smart guy in the situation. But the step up from the being in the championship series to being in the bowl subdivision series, I think that step up is too much for the transfers at hand, and maybe not even FCS is the right word, because I don't think that is Texas State FCS.
I think they recently made the step up into FBS.
Yeah,
I believe, or they're like about to make the step up.
FBS, but yeah. I guess it probably should just say like more of the mid to low major players that got added on this roster, whether it be the guys who were in FCS, like the Quincy Craigs of the world in the running back room, or Isaac Perez, who's probably gonna be in contention to start at center for this team, or there's also there's of course, like I'm saying, the mid-major guys, the Kyanita Cambras of the world, the Ishmael Mahdis of the world, the Luke Wysongs, like those guys have to be hits. And then another CS guy, I believe, Nunu Watley, who was coveted by some pretty big programs in North Carolina. Bill Belichick kind of hit the ground running and started going after all of the top transfers, and that was one of the guys that they really wanted. So
yeah, he took some time away from the sorority house to do that. Yeah.
I will move on from said comment with no comment. But I think that Texas State is in the Pac-12 now, but which I've when we talked about on this show, Kevin, I always thought was interesting because I was like, feels like kind of Texas State maybe should have always been a big school, right? Like, yeah, Texas State. Like, shouldn't that
be
the
state of Texas?
That sounds like a big damn school.
It feels like Texas and Texas State should be going at it more than like Texas and Texas Tech or like Texas and Oklahoma.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
There's so many schools in Texas, such a big state with so many big cities, but it does feel like Texas State should have been a bigger school than it was. But,
totally.
Kevin, any of those top three reasons stick out to you primarily?
I mean, I would say 3 sticks out to me the most, but it's technically on my list, so I'll get to that in a moment. I think number 2,
whatever, dude.
I think number 2,
you're so smart,
sticks out on this list the most to me because I think it is the pivotal, like, what is the word I'm looking for here? It's the pivotal point for the offense. I'll say is if Noah Fifita comes in and improves, it makes all the other stuff matter. If Seth Doege revolutionizes the Arizona's offense from last year to this year, but Noah Fifita takes a step back without T-Mac, or Noah Fifita isn't the same guy that he was from the Alamo Bowl season now 2 years removed, it doesn't matter how good Ishmael Mahdi is. It doesn't matter how good Trey Spivey is. It doesn't matter how good Luke Wysong is. It doesn't matter how good Rhino is because you don't have the quarterback. You know what I mean? And this is ultimately the sport that they play is if you have an elite quarterback, you can compete for whatever you need to compete with. So I think that's the main one that I'm pointing out on your list there is if Noah Fifita is more 2024 than 2023, Arizona will miss a bowl game. Moving into my list here, before we get on out of here today, the top 3 reasons why Arizona will miss a bowl game, in my opinion, number 1, wide receiver group not as skilled as projected. There are a lot of new faces trying to replace the guy there on the right, Teteroa McMillan. But what if a Trey Spivey just is still too raw? What if a Luke Wysong coming in from New Mexico just doesn't take the step up into the Big 12? What if a Chris Hudson just isn't as able to get he's not as able to easily get separation at Arizona? I think if those receivers don't step up the way that we're projecting them to step up, the way that I think we're assuming they will step up in this offense, Arizona could be in some trouble, and I think it would give Noah Fifita a lot harder of a time to get into what he has to do to find success in the offense, right? And honestly, you might be going into overtime like we are if Noah Fifita, isn't able to find his receivers. You're probably going to be going into overtime. I kind of just said that to get us into overtime, I must admit. But if we do go back to my top 3 reasons why Arizona will miss a bowl game here. If the FCS to FBS, or like Damon said, the lower level transfers just don't pan out the way that we anticipate that they could pan out.
Yep.
I think that's the most obvious one, right? There's a lot of question marks in terms of, can the talent that you brought in look the way it looked at the level it was playing prior? Can an Ishmael Mahdi come in and be one of the best running backs in the Big 12? Can a Luke Wysong take the step up to Arizona and become one of the Big 12's premier receivers in that way? Can some of the guys on the defensive end, the defensive line, the offensive line, can a Ty Buchanan come through like Damon already outlined? I think number 2 is going to be probably the pivotal piece in terms of making or missing a bowl game. If the transfers and new faces come in and they're exactly how you expected, Arizona probably makes a bowl game. If those transfers come in and they struggle for 5-6 weeks before getting their feet under them, you might have missed your chance in 2025. And number 3, Noah Fifita takes a step back without his guy, T-Mac. If Noah Fifita is not the same quarterback without literally a generational talent attached to his side, that goes without saying that that's going to be a big problem for Arizona, especially if it goes in tandem with my number 1. If your receivers are not as skilled as projected and Noah Fifita takes a step back, you're kind of cooked on offense in that way. We've already outlined it's a passing conference this season in the Big 12. You're probably not going to be able to go out and make a bowl game with just Ishmael Mahdi having a special season, if he has a special season, right? So I think those are the 3 reasons why Arizona might not make a bowl game, in my opinion, Damon.
Yeah, I think I have fairly decent confidence in this receiver group, maybe, and that's probably why I didn't have that in my top 3. But I do think that I do hear what you're saying. Like, you need some playmakers way more than you did last season, because last season was just not good enough at all. Last season, Chris Hunter was your number 2 receiver, and now Chris Hunter is, he's in the rotation for sure, but that's a rotation of about 6 guys that are all in that same similar, if not a little bit better caliber, right? So you have a lot more mouths to feed, and of course that should help Noah Fifita, because it felt like no one was worthy of getting thrown the football their way last season. Like, not to go after guys, but like, Sam Olsen targets, Jeremiah Patterson targets.
Hey, Sam Olsen's 80 overall in EA College Football 26. Put some damn respect. He's higher rated than Genesis Smith, goddammit. Put some respect on his name.
Yeah. It's just when you were targeting those guys, it wasn't really playing. It wasn't leading to efficient offensive football. And, I think that, you look at Nunu Watley and Trey Spivey and Luke Wysong and Chris Hunter and Chris Hudson and like all of these guys, right? Like they can put together a competitive and I think like middle of the pack in the conference receiving core. And that would be plenty fine for Noah Fifita, because that would be a massive step up from last season, because it really is difficult to like really weigh where Noah Fifita's weaponry would rank last season, because it's like he has the best overall weapon in the conference. And then he had absolutely nothing, right? Outside of that. Like, it was like, cool. So where does he, it's probably not the worst, right? In the conference, because it can't be the worst so heavily by with a top 10 NFL draft pick, but how much do you weigh that when the other 7 skill players that get playing time are all below average? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to really scale like where Arizona's skill group, I think, would rank last season, but definitely towards the bottom of the conference.
Yeah, and I was thinking in my head, like, how much, and I guess we won't really know until we see it, but preseason, what is your opinion on the idea of like, how do you weigh having, from a fan's perspective and from an analyst kind of vibe of predicting the outcome of the season, how do you weigh like having a bunch of good, maybe one really good receiver potentially this upcoming year versus having an all-time great receiver for your program and a bunch of after that, right? And I do you think that it because we were talking about in my reasons they might miss, we were talking about the idea that if those players are just okay, right? If you don't really have any skill like playmaking guys at the receiver position, how far can you really go? How much does that really help Noah Fifita? Because if you have an elite playmaker that if you throw it up, he can probably catch anything you throw his way, it solves a lot of problems for the guys that aren't getting separation. If Arizona, I know speed has been a thing that is being talked about as one of the main key points of this offense is speed. But if the speed doesn't necessarily transfer to the in-game stuff, like, and you just have a bunch of guys that, pardon me, that can get a little bit of separation, but maybe not make all the plays, does that help you as much as maybe we think it does? And I've been kind of trying to like wrestle with that over the last couple of minutes here. I think it does help you, obviously, to have more good receivers as opposed to one great and a bunch of okay. You know what I mean? But if the receivers don't pan out, like, you don't have an elite playmaker. You just don't have one.
Yeah, no, you don't. And you probably don't even have the Corey Krosky Merritt that you did last season, to be frank. And, you know, I have pretty high expectations for Ishmael Mahdi, but Corey Krosky Merritt could be find himself as a starting running back potentially by the end of this NFL season. You know, I wouldn't say Brian Robinson on the last year of his contract has anything locked down for the Washington Commanders. And it sounds like he's, you know, JCM is building a little bit of momentum in that backfield. Goes to show how good of a player he is, right? Because he didn't play and he still is getting opportunities like that. And so I think that he was also a top 10 PFF running back. Like he was a really, really good college football player. And you might not even have that, but you know, you do have a lot of guys, I think, that are above average. And I think that you can work with that if you have a good scheme.
Yeah.
If you have a good scheme, you can work with that.
And that's why we have such faith that the wide receivers will project into this team because of Seth Doege's scheme, the way it's been advertised to us. Seems like one that, from a wide receiver standpoint, can't miss from production. Someone's going to get open. Someone's going to get the yardage. And yeah, I think that's kind of the balance that Seth Doege brings, right? So, yeah, I just kind of wanted your opinion on the depth of the wide receiver room and such. But yeah, do we have anything else before we get out of here? Oh yeah, we have Caitlin Lowe.
Yeah, we got a little bit of news and notes to talk about before we get out of here. Drop a like on this video if you guys are here, please, and thank you. But right before we get out of here, we should talk about a couple extensions divvied out by the Arizona Athletic Department. Coaches Caitlin Lowe and men's golf head coach Jim Anderson, both entering the final years of their contracts, were extended an additional season through 2026 and 2027. Anderson was given a 3-year extension in 2021. And, you know, I think, you know, now sees himself with 2 1-year extensions, I believe, since then. Won the Pac-12 title in 2021. Shout out my boy Trevor Warbelow, who I went to high school with, who was on that team.
Lancers, stand up.
Hell yeah, brother. Trevor's a pro golfer. Pretty cool job, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. I had a buddy that went to IMG for golf, and I don't think I've ever envied a life like more in like a basic way of just like, wait, so you just wake up on a resort every day and your job is to lift weights and golf?
Yeah, man. Like I'm pretty sure my buddy just lives near Dove Mountain in Tucson, which is like probably the nicest course in town, and just plays golf if he's not training in a different place or on tour.
What a life. I should have played golf, man.
It is a good life. But Anderson didn't have a great debut season in the Big 12. Finished 12th out of 16 teams in the Big 12 tournament. Missed nationals by 1 stroke in the NCAA postseason. So not the greatest year for Arizona men's golf, but he sees himself with a contract extension. A little surprised that's only 1 year for me, honestly, because he seems like he's been fairly consistent. He's been here a long time as well. So, you know, and Arizona typically has a pretty competitive golf program, even if the showing in this one particular season was not great.
Yeah, and he's a former Pac-12 coach of the year, like you outlined, right? Like, it's not like he's a guy that you brought on and had a couple years of success, but didn't really do too. He's literally at one point was the best coach in the conference.
2012,
in the Pac-12.
2012 is when he joined the University of Arizona.
Yeah, and he has recent success. It's not like his success is back in like 2015 or something. He won the Pac-12 title in 2021, and yes, like you said, he did not have a good year last year, finishing 12th in the Big 12 conference. But and this we're going to get into this with Caitlin Lowe. With these 1-year extensions, they kind of feel like we're waiting. You know what I mean? Like, are you gonna do hey, do something. It feels like the stick meme. Here's your verbal meme for the day. It feels like the stick meme. It feels like DRF is like poking Anderson and Lowe and being like, hey, do something. Here's your 1-year extension. Do something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and we're gonna talk about this more with Caitlin Lowe in a second, but I don't know how that like much easier that makes anything for a coach, right? Like I know you have the little bit of security there, but like how much can you really recruit people if your job is on the line next year? Yeah. Right. So, and I guess that does segue us into Caitlin Lowe a little bit, right, Damon? Because
which is a little bit more of, I think you could probably and not to diminish Jim Anderson, but and like I said, he's been here since 2012. That's 13 seasons as head coach of Arizona, maybe 14. I don't know if usually sometimes you might have to. You're not counting one, but he playing golf in Arizona is a privilege.
Yes.
It almost sells itself in terms of bringing in recruits because there's great golf courses. You can do it year round. It's warm weather. It's a golf state. And, your rival's pretty competitive as well in men's golf. So, I think that there's almost an element of the program recruiting itself. And you could make that argument for softball as well. But I think softball has become so uber competitive in college that it's not just about the program anymore. You need to be, and clearly we've seen that with the drop off of Arizona softball, frankly, you need to be building momentum. You need to be getting better or else you're getting worse, right? Because everybody else is getting better. So Caitlin Lowe being on a 1-year extension, to me, that's a little bit more of a question.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit more alarming from the sense of you and I were talking about this, when? Back like months ago at this point. Like I remember you saying, you should clip this sometime. You were saying like, not worrying about it now, a lot of season left, but like wait until this extension gets done. And then let's talk about what this future of the program looks like. And now we're here and she's only been given a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
And I think that like, it kind of is, for lack of a better phrase, like put up or shut up. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this extension of like, hey, the direction of softball, you're going to need more money to compete. Like, I think this is DRF and whoever is else making these decisions kind of saying like, okay, we're going to give you an extra year to recruit your butt off. And if you can do it and you can compete next year without Devin Netz, without some of the transfer players you have lost, then we can relook at you being this true leader of this program going forward. But it feels like they want a pillar, right, post Candrea. And I think that if you're looking at Lowe, while yes, you did have some success this past year, you finished second in the Big 12, only behind a team that is paying $1 gajillion for their roster in Texas Tech.
True.
And you had 3 NFCA All-Americans in the Big 12 Player of the Year who went on to get drafted by the only professional league in the continental U.S. So I feel like it wasn't like Caitlin Lowe came out and completely flopped this past season for Arizona softball.
Season, yeah.
And so I almost feel like
it was a bad postseason.
Yes. And it was a very disappointing postseason based on the confidence and the momentum you had just built up, right? I don't know. The 1-year extension, though, does kind of worry me as someone who's trying to watch and see if Caitlin Lowe is going to continue to lead this program. What is your kind of take on the 1-year part of this?
Yeah, that was my initial reaction when we were talking about this, Kevin, was just that, like, I'm not sure that bodes well for her long-term security. I understand that you're doing that so that she can recruit players in this upcoming cycle, but wouldn't the 1-year extension almost signify to those players that they are not locked in on Caitlin Lowe, that she is not the long-term solution here? So in a way, you're almost showing your hand, in my opinion. Like, it's like you're like the worst poker player alive, right? Where you're being like, I definitely don't have 2 7s right now. That's for sure. Like, it's crazy. We definitely aren't thinking about getting rid of her. That's why we're giving her an extension.
See, we extended her. We wanted our time to be longer together.
Why is it 1 year? Details, schmeetails,
I mean,
dude.
It's just an arbitrary number. We can extend her again next year. She 100 1-year extensions for Caitlin Lowe.
I think that this shows you that Caitlin Lowe will be coaching next year, which I think we all anticipated already, right? Going into the final year of her contract, she wasn't going to be canned for finishing in second place in the whole damn conference. Like, that wasn't going to happen. Hosting a regional, but she definitely has to have a good year next year, I think, in order for Arizona Athletics to justify continuing to give her extensions, right? And you lose a lot of talent. A lot of players left in the transfer portal too that were some of the players you were going to hang your hat on going into this season. You added some good players too, but I don't know if you completely added on paper what you lost. And I almost feel like if this 1-year extension is the case, like, it almost feels like Arizona has to get second place or better in the Big 12.
Well, I was going to say super regionals or bust. Is that the question?
I think get out of the regional.
So I think we saw this year she finishes second and then disappoints in the regionals and then it's a 1-year extension.
Or
so I think you can make the argument that regardless of conference finish, as long as it's good, if you advance past the regionals, then we can talk about, is it a 2-year extension, 3-year extension?
If you don't host, I guess maybe like you get to the regional final, you maybe force a third game. Maybe you lose to that team barely, and then they go on to have a good showing in the College World Series. Like, I could be talked into different circumstances. I'm not like black and white. You need to make the super regional, but needs to be a good season. Needs to be a good season, or else I think that's going to be lights out on Caitlin Lowe's tenure at Arizona softball. So
I think
it's a big year.
Yeah, and I think another aspect of the 1 year in the contract situation, Glenn alludes to it in the chat, but I think there's another aspect of it that Arizona is trying to save money right now.
100%.
Right. And I think that if you are trying to do that and you have a coach that has been slightly up and down in their results, right? Do you want to lock yourself into 3 years or 4 years of a contract that you're going to have to pay out to this person if they're not the one that you're sure is going to lead the program, right? So I think I'm not saying that is more than half of the reason as to why this is a 1-year extension. In fact, I think it's probably less than 10% of the reason as to why this is a 1-year extension. But I can't rule out that it didn't play a role in the thought process of like, yes, I think it starts with being unsure if Caitlin Lowe is the person to lead the program long term, and then you get into the, well, do we want to offer her 2 years at this number? Because I'm not saying that she's like the most expensive coach in the country, but when you're trying to cut corners and save money where you can and use coupons and such, you got to evaluate like the length of these contracts that you're getting yourself into.
And I feel like DRF trusts herself to find the Becky Burks of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of the young up and comer coaches that are risers.
I think she loves to do that.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think because Noah Fifita alluded to it when he talked to us about being an underdog. He said, "Yeah, I talked to DRF," and she said, "That's Dr. Desiree. Yeah, you're right." And she said, "That's how I love to build my programs. Not how I like to build my football program. That's how I like to build my school, is by being an underdog."
Let's just not do that for basketball, maybe.
Yeah, I think we're good. I hate it or love it, the underdogs are on top in basketball. I don't think we gotta worry about that. But you know what I mean?
I would argue that softball, you want to be on top too.
True. I mean, especially nowadays,
because those are the two premier programs on campus.
Yeah, but I think like
it's almost like a travesty when both of those teams are not like firing on all cylinders.
Yes. And I think like in the vein of conversation we were having though about like DRF trusting herself to go out and get a budget higher that can get you rich results, right? And I think that's more so what I'm talking about. I want to see the investment in softball for certain, but it doesn't have to be in the coach necessarily to succeed, right? And I think
I do want to see more investment in the transfer side of things. That's for damn sure.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. And Caitlin Lowe has been extended for 1 year. Anderson has also been extended for 1 year. And happy to have him back on campus.
I think a program like Arizona softball could really benefit from the future revenue sharing that goes down, because if they do truly cap the amount of money that you can spend on your athletic department as a whole, and there's percentages that you have to divvy out to each particular sport, I know that Arizona is going to invest heavily in softball. Yeah. Because that's the heritage of our university, that we are, pretty much one of the two catalyst programs of making the sport popular. And I think that, it's like that could be something if everybody's kind of on an equal playing field. And it's not just Texas Tech oil money buying players. Like, I feel pretty confident U of A softball will be back towards the top, but we have to wait until that happens. And in the meantime, you got to make sure Caitlin Lowe is, I guess, the right coach for this program moving forward. But Kevin, that is going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We'll be back on a Friday at 2 p.m. as our regularly scheduled time. Please leave a like on this video if you haven't done so already. Helps us out so much. We should have as many likes as we have viewers of this fine program. Had a great discussion today about the top 3 reasons Arizona will or won't make a bowl game in the 2025 football season. Kevin, just 45 days away from Arizona versus Hawaii. I looked that one up too, buddy. And
how many hours though?
We only got a month and a half, brother, until it's full-fledged football season. I'm fired up for it because I think that this season is so much in the air, and it really could go a lot of different ways, despite maybe the negative vibes that we all felt just a mere 5 months ago in February, right? But I think that there's an opportunity for this program to surprise some people, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season, hopefully. So follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost. That's KEVOPOSTS. Follow me at Damon Dog. That's Damon DAWG. And follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. We'll be back, like I said, on a Friday at 2 p.m. But until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. Stanky cousin, I'm still waiting for you to go bowling.
We all silly like the mayor.